My name is Dusty Keim. I am a junior here at the university. Next spring I will graduate with a bachelor's degree in English literature and creative writing and minors in German, history, and European studies. Okay, so I'm just going to read what I have now. Tyranny over the mind is the most complete and most brutal type of tyranny. Every other tyranny begins and ends with it. Milovan Djilas, 1957. My English degree, what I have learned, and the professors who have taught me, is the front defense against tyranny. Because of the education I have received here, my mind is free and open, and able to write and think critically and creatively, to take a stand and defend my claim. I can identify a problem and work towards a solution. My English degree is about more than just reading Shakespeare or writing short stories or becoming a high school English teacher, as so many like to assume. I go forth with the skills I have gained here, ready to create a better world through empathetic open-mindedness and critical engagement. The value of my degree lies in the assurance that as long as my mind is free, open, and curious, tyranny is kept at bay. That's what I have written down.
Hi, I'm Lauren Fairhurst.
My name's Bailey Collins. I'm a creative writing major in the English department.
Right, I'm also a creative writing major in the English department. And we do have some pretty neat things to say about having an English degree. If you'll start.
I've always thought that the value of an English degree has a lot to do with communication and interpersonal relationships. Writing's been my life since I was in the first grade. And coming here and being able to read and interact with people who read and interact with people who write has been one of the most valuable things that I could have possibly done with my life up until this point. I'm not very good at talking to people, and having a way to connect with them that's both something deeply personal and something universal is just beyond words.
Yeah, and with people that have written for all their lives and read for all or a majority of their lives, it is a very opening experience to read like great philosophical works and adjust your mindset and have an entirely different opinion about things. And especially with writing and reading and English in general, I have found it to be very valuable to have that sort of knowledge to form real opinions that you can back up with actual evidence and actually start a case. Sorry?
There's a degree of thinking to it.
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
It's not so much learning what to think as it is learning how to think and finding ways to expand your mind in your own personal way. Right,
and even if you haven't been writing or reading for as long as since the first grade, like myself, it's still a wonderful thing to be able to have that process sort of underway in concrete. I think that's it. I think we've got it.
Dear President Bodner, I came to study poetry at the University of Montana's highly lauded and nationally acclaimed creative writing MFA. I studied at the University of Oregon for my undergraduate. My background is in food justice and disability studies within the greater framework of community development. I've spent my adult life committed to building networks, establishing connections, and critically assessing what it really means for an institution to be resilient. I do not have the experience in business that you possess, no, but I have worked at nonprofit education centers and public schools. Since arriving at the University of Montana, I have taught 4 college-level classes in poetry as well as rhetoric and composition. I argue that literacy is not merely the general ability to read and write, rather it is a spectrum, practiced writing and practiced reading with a critical lens that slowly, cumulatively, after sustained practice, strengthens and hones our cultural competence. This kind of literacy, I believe, is essential for the resilience of an institution or any governing body, and is only offered through the study of language and English literature itself. In your strategy for distinction, you state the, quote, Montana ways reflect what we value in a core curriculum. However, I find it to be a tragic irony that while you emphasize communicating, creating, knowing, and living as the cornerstone of our university, you are essentially eliminating our language arts. I understand you are doing your job, and it's a hard one, but the core of your proposed curriculum demonstrates an immense lack of knowing. Stories shape communicating, creating, knowing, and living. As Emily Dickinson said, tell the truth, but tell it slant. Critically thinking, unpacking, analyzing, and seeing through the application of canonical and underappreciated authored works is how we, quote, come to know, or strive to know in a university setting. As a poet, I'll say that poetry fosters an immense faith and distrust in language itself. Poets are great rhetors in disguise. They are our diplomats and leaders. How else can we read the Constitution or any document without the groundwork of poetic thinking and shaping of language, our medium for communication? We need to understand the narrative and how to break it to know what makes and breaks us as a people. History itself is a great narrative. What our institution lacks and what it craves is a narrative of cohesion, of promise and community resilience. That cohesion is here, but we are suffering right now under this administration. You aren't seeing us. You wrote your proposal so fast, you didn't even include our master's program in creative writing. Our creative, intellectual, and pedagogic work is the frontiers work of the Rocky Mountain West. We are the core, we are the Montana way. Each of us, we are distinct, and we offer that to graduate and undergraduate students through our unique and exceptional programming. Don't make the mistake of losing it. I look forward to your reevaluation of this draft of your strategy for distinction. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I am a senior here at the university in the English department. I'm going to be graduating in May with my creative writing English Lit degree with an Irish studies minor. I graduated from White Sulphur Springs High School in 2014. It's a town of about 900 at most. I graduated with 12 other kids, and I came to college thinking that the only way to pay off student loans would be to go into a STEM field. So I got here, and my advisor immediately told me, there's going to be 200 kids in that class. I don't know, you just came from a school with max 10 kids in a classroom. Are you going to be able to handle that? And I said, well, what else do you do? How else do you pay off these loans if you're not a doctor? So I chose pre-med. I got to chemistry 141 and I failed. And I, at the same time, was in Writ 101 and I got an A. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do college. I didn't think I was smart enough for it, but I'd already gotten financial aid for my freshman year. So I took poetry and Writ 101 and I got A's in those two. And I don't know, coming from White Sulphur Springs, we didn't have, we had a really actually sad standard for academics, and I didn't retain much interest for any of it. But here I found interest from the faculty. They thought what I was writing was good. And it opened up my eyes to just a world of subjects that I hadn't understood in those classrooms, but that through literature, through creative writing, there's more doors. I could learn science and history and in a way that had never interested me before. In this capstone I'm doing this year, I read this quote early on. This is Louis Menand, and he says, in a meritocratic society, citizens need a common fund of knowledge, a kind of cultural lingua franca, to prevent politically dangerous divisions from developing. In White Sulphur, we have very little common language between each other. We don't really get into these big intellectual topics, and my goal in life is to go back to these small towns and bring what I've learned so the students like me who maybe don't succeed in chemistry can learn why those things are important in a different context. And the Oval, sophomore year again, I joined. I was an editor. We published these. They're all undergraduates on the boards, on the editorial boards, all undergraduates published inside the magazine. It's fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and visual art. So I actually got, to put my name inside, in print inside this book on the fiction board. And then a year later, I was chosen to be the editor-in-chief of this edition, which was, I didn't think that coming from White Sulphur Springs, caring as little as I did about everything, thinking I wasn't very good or had no applicable, valuable skills, being able to be a part of something like this and putting this in a resume it's something that I'll be forever thankful for. And without the faculty that I've met here, I wouldn't have this. And had I gotten a STEM degree, my resume would have been filled with B's and C's and trying to struggle to do something that I'm inherently not good at. And instead, I was given the opportunity to be not just good at something, but great at something, and to contribute to other students, to publish them, to inspire them, to help share my knowledge with them, to help pass down the secrets that teachers gave me in my workshops. And if I got the opportunity to come back here for graduate school, for anything, for another bachelor's degree, I would. And I just really hope that the faculty would be here to meet me. I think this program has the potential to inspire so many students in all of these different areas that maybe they would think they had no interest in, that maybe they think they weren't naturally good at. And if we continue to support teachers and care about teachers and give them a place to show students this kind of inspiration, then Montana, especially the students who are neglected the most, I mean, that's a gift. That's a gift they haven't been offered yet, and it's one that I think they deserve. I think our program has done a lot so far, and we can do a lot more. We just need to treat our faculty not like they're worth dollars, not like our thoughts, our conversations have dollar value, but like they give us a common lingua franca, like they help us participate in this society and our history better together. So that's what my English degree means to me.
So I decided to come to this university because of my grandfather, who graduated sometime around 1960 with a degree in English. Grandfather's buried up in Libby. When he was 16, he shot a bear outside of Libby, somewhere in the cabinets. He said he had this reoccurring dream for the rest of his life where he'd be walking down a road outside of Libby, and he'd get this sense that this bear was following him. And he'd look around, he wouldn't be able to see it, and he'd start to run, and knowing that that bear was almost invisible, but it would be right behind him, about to catch him. And in this dream, he would make it to a farmhouse and get to the front door, and right as he was about to turn that door, the bear would catch him and he'd wake up. And then in the next dream, he'd break through the house and run to the kitchen, and that's where the bear would catch him. And then he'd wake up. And this recurring dream happened throughout his life. Since he graduated here, he moved back to Libby and then moved to White Salmon, Washington, and moved to Oregon, where he died. And then his body is back in Libby now. But I heard it from my uncle that when my grandpa was aging and getting sick, he went in to have surgery. And this is before I was born. But in that surgery, he said he woke up on the operating room table in a lucid dream with sleep paralysis, couldn't move his body, just frozen there. And his eyes were locked on those two swinging doors. Well, that bear finally caught up to him, came through those doors, and walked across the operating room, right up to him, and laid its head on his chest, and went to sleep. I came here to find that bear.
All right, I'm Marin Schiffer. I moved to Missoula to study poetry, and I'm also lucky to study and teach writing this year. I think in teaching writing this year, I've gotten to take a step back and think really simply about what a story is and what a story does. and remind myself of the fact that humans need stories in order to process information. And we need them in order to communicate things about ourselves and understand ourselves, and also in order to understand others, and bridge gaps between not just different identities, but viewpoints, perspectives, backgrounds. And I think something that I hear a lot from administrators is that problem solving and creative problem solving and team problem solving is a really crucial skill. And I think sometimes we forget that we need empathy in order to creatively problem solve. And empathy comes from analyzing and listening to other stories. What I love about my time at the University of Montana studying poetry and teaching writing is that I get to analyze stories, you know, what that means, different ways to convey things about ourselves, different ways to understand others.
Hi, my name is Marco Capaferri, 34 years old, originally from Blue Anchor, New Jersey, studying creative writing and literature in the environment here at the University of Montana. I'm going to read from John Henry Cardinal Newman's The Idea of a University, and it's inscribed here by the author November 21st, 1852. So, like William Faulkner once wrote, the past isn't dead, it's not even past. If then a practical end must be assigned to a university course, I say it is that of training good members of society. Its art is the art of social life, and its end is fitness for the world. It neither confines its views to particular professions on the one hand, nor creates heroes or inspires genius on the other. But a university training is the great ordinary means to a great but ordinary end. It aims at raising the intellectual tone of society, at cultivating the public mind, at purifying the national taste, at supplying true principles to popular enthusiasm and fixed aims to popular aspiration, at giving enlargement to sobriety and sobriety to the ideas of the age, at facilitating the exercise of political power and refining the intercourse of private life. It is the education which gives a man a clear, conscious view of his own opinions and judgments, a truth in developing them, an eloquence in expressing them, and a force in urging them. It teaches him to see things as they are, to go right to the point, to disentangle a skein of thought, to detect what is sophisticated, and to discard what is irrelevant. It prepares him to fill any post with credit and to master any subject with facility. It shows him how to accommodate himself to others, how to throw himself into their state of mind, how to bring before them his own, how to influence them, how to come to an understanding with them, how to bear with them. He is at home in any society. He has common ground with every class. He knows when to speak and when to be silent. He is able to converse. He is able to listen. He can ask a question pertinently and gain a lesson seasonably when he has nothing to impart himself. He is ever ready, yet never in the way. He is a pleasant companion and a comrade you can depend on. He knows when to be serious and when to trifle, and he has a sure tact which enables him to trifle with gracefulness and to be serious with effect. He has the repose of a mind which lives in itself while it lives in the world, and which has resources for its happiness at home when it cannot go abroad. He has a gift which serves him in public and supports him in retirement, without which good fortune is but vulgar, and with which failure and disappointment have a charm.
My name is Justice, and I'm working towards a bachelor's degree in English creative writing. And I would say that the value of my English degree lies in its versatility, among other things. I'm not limited to any one field because communication and critical or creative thinking skills, which are essential for an English major, are useful in a multitude of other disciplines. However, I would say that the most personally rewarding aspect of my degree is that it gives me the opportunity to create and to have my creations impact other people's lives. Countless stories that I've read have left an impression on me personally, and it's almost like those stories have become a part of me. They've influenced the way that I think and the way that I see the world. And literature is part of an ever-evolving human experience, and it builds on itself. I could not write as well as I do had I not read the variety of stories that I have. Studying various literary styles, themes, and critique methods has helped me improve my own writing, thinking, communication skills, and has broadened my worldview by introducing me to different ideas and thought processes. Really, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I have encountered some of the most useful information and relevant scholarly experiences in college-level literature and writing classrooms. Those experiences have helped me to more thoughtfully interact with the real world.
My name is Rachel Smith, and I'm a second-year graduate student in the MA Literature program, but this is not my first experience here at the U of M. I received my bachelor's degree in English after switching from the study of creative writing and studio art and realizing that the attempt to understand, translate, and communicate about great art interested me much more than creating it myself. I returned to Missoula for grad school because of the rigor of the classwork, the fascination for the texts we read, the passion of the instructors who teach here, and because of the intellectual community that this department and its study fosters. Our world is mediated by language, and studying the ways we use it, the ways we represent ourselves through it and create our world through it is essential to any endeavor to make our world and ourselves better. Studying literature requires openness and develops empathy. It enhances my appreciation of the beauty and potential of a world that often feels demoralizing. Literature and its study is not limited to old books, although I do love that part of it. Reading literature means reading the world in all of its ambiguities. It is my firm conviction that gray areas build gray matter.
I decided to bring my 2 bags today to just demonstrate, what it means for me to come to this campus and be on this campus. So my first bag here is this hefty, almost backpacking bag, and inside of it I've got my water bottle, my coffee. I have, let's see, in this pocket I've got my my laptop and my planner, and in here there's wallets, external hard drives, various cords, chargers, and the like. It's heavier than I thought it was. And then I've got this handy rolling bag that I'm able to stuff all of my books in. I have probably about 10 or 12 different books that I'll carry around on days that I come to work on campus, as well as a whole stack of student papers to grade. So my point for showing all of this is to really, like, this is my footprint on campus. I don't come here and just come in and get on the bus and peace out. I come here and I am interacting with faculty, with students, with colleagues, with peers. I come here to be a part of a learning community, and I was really struck when Bodner said, students whose majors are being cut will have an opportunity to finish their degrees in said majors. Because the way I see it, we aren't here to have an autonomous individual education. We come here to partake in an entire experience, to interact, to give, to set up on campus and have our books and go to the library and be in these conversations. So I I wanted, hopefully, this to kind of demonstrate I live here. Like, I live here as much as I live at home. And I came here from Oregon and California to be a part of this community. So it hurts to see what's at stake right now.
So when I decided to go back to school to get an English degree, and specifically in the creative writing concentration, I wasn't quite sure if it was the right decision, and then I got here and I knew that it was, and I keep getting reminded all the time that it was a very good decision. The creative writing classes are taught by very accomplished people, and even in the intro level, I always got something out of it. And then in the lit classes, we learn a lot. Well, I mean, you can't really write well if you don't read. In the lit classes, it isn't just about reading books, although that's important. It's also about the variety of ways you can write, and also you get a little glimpse into culture. So right now I'm in Modern American Lit, and we just finished Beloved, and that book by Toni Morrison really gets you an idea of what it was like for Black people in America right before, during, and after the Civil War. And sure, you can take a history class, but that's very textbooky, and this was a way to really get into the heart of what it was like for people then. And that's what you get with a lit class that you might not get really anywhere else in the university. And that has helped me grow as a writer too. It's important to have both, you know, reading comprehension and experiencing books, and also being able to then write from there. I think that's about it.
I could talk about the value of the humanities to my life personally, how they've enriched my non-academic experiences as much as my academic hours, how they've promoted the sort of introspection and consideration that has made me a better person amongst family, friends, colleagues, and work associates, or even the driver who cuts me off at the intersection of Higgins and Broadway. I could talk about the value of a robust, interdisciplinary, humanities-dependent education to past peers, to the college friend whose medical practice is buoyed by his reading of Tom Stoppard, the pre-med who found her passion for law thanks to arguments and essays in a class about Ovid, the philosophy of science major who's now pursuing an MBA because of how humanities studies taught him to think about systems. But instead of speaking through anecdote and intimation, I'm going to talk about what humanities is, after which I think the study of humanistic sciences like English literature and creative writing will be self-evident. The notion of science in its most originally, classically derived, and still most vibrant meaning results from the verb scire, to know. And for most of its history, this word designated knowledge arrived at not by one single and settled methodology, but knowledge arrived at generally through the study and practice of things. And in that sense, the study and practice in which every member of a university or society is most engaged, whether they're an economist or a physicist or a football coach or any number of vital non-academics, is the study and practice of being human and relating to fellow humans through the technologies of language. Lives, businesses, nations, maybe even our species succeed or fail through their success in this relating, whether through art and argument, through reading, writing, and speaking, and cohabitation and co-working. Indeed, these human sciences, this science of relating to our fellow earthly inhabitants, past, present, and future, are the studies and practices that both undergird and illuminate all other forms of knowledge, all other forms of sciences, all the assembled extensions of humanity towards each other in the world. And so these skills, these studies and practices, are those that any serious university needs to equip all of its students with before graduating them off campus and onto further pursuits. Not only does the university fail its self-imposed mission if it misses this mark, it fails the mission civilization sets for the university. The science of relating to fellow humans is, following Aristotle, simply and fundamentally citizenship. And as Aristotle suggests, a failure in this sort of education is a civilizational failure. Without the tools offered by the humanities, the very institution designed to produce good citizens collapses, and moreover misguides its dependent constituents as to what good citizenship should look like. The motto of my undergraduate institution, a school with a strong core curriculum where every physicist takes classes in political philosophy and every poet in chemistry and calculus, is Crescat Scientia Vita Exculator, let science grow, let life be enriched. To lose sight of this most basic of the sciences, to under-prioritize the humanities and thus the human subject, is to let science wither and life be impoverished. But it's also to imperil the very existence of life in human terms. Because if we can't adequately and effectively relate to each other, we are entirely lost, as are any hopes of knowing more than or beyond ourselves. The humanistic disposition is the human position. To lose the former is to lose the center.
Hi, I'm Emma.
I'm Luke, and I'm from Denver, Colorado.
I'm from Billings, Montana. And we both came here to study English at University of Montana.
English and creative writing and literature and the whole deal.
Yeah, we really think that English is an important thing to study because right now, especially, we need to be working on skills like reading critically and writing critically in order to be an active member of society. Yeah, that's really important.
I guess I don't know, I'll share how I got here to the university. So basically, I grew up in a Catholic household, very traditional Catholic household, and went to Catholic school my whole life. And so as a young LGBT person, that didn't work out as best as it could have. And so really I fell back on literature to just to learn about all that stuff and to learn about myself. And so I read Alison Bechdel and all those kinds of authors in my free time at night under my covers. And it was really, and that was kind of my community for myself because I went to Catholic school in a Catholic family and didn't really have anyone I could talk to about that. And so literature was my huge deal. And so when I got to college, at first I went to Hawaii Pacific University and they were great. They taught me a whole lot and I really liked the people there. But after my first year in their writing and literature program, one of the professors was just like, if you want to be serious about this, you shouldn't be here because it's a science school and their department was really small and not as robust as here. And so I transferred to the University of Montana because I really liked the writing program and I heard great things about the literature program, and it's got a repertoire, I guess, and a graduate just won a Pulitzer. So yeah, and so I came here to study more about LGBT literature and just literature in general and just get writing. And so it's just a huge bummer to learn about the cuts when I came here for the literature program and for the writing program, and to me to get in the door and then to immediately hear about cuts to the program that I'm really passionate about and that I came here for. It's kind of devastating.
Especially because a lot of those classes that would feature curriculums focused around LGBTQ authors would be the first things to be cut because they're more electives and not Shakespeare. So the whole reason that we want to be here learning would kind of be undervalued.
Right.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah. What about you?
What about me? I struggle with a lot of sort of mental health, emotional issues, and one of the only ways to kind of deal with that kind of thing for me was to use creative writing as sort of an outlet to sort of find a way to articulate those emotions and to sort of see them in a tangible form helped me a lot. And so I came here to hopefully learn more about that and how to more effectively portray those emotions. So the creative writing classes that I'm in are important so that I can learn how to write, but my literature classes are important so that I can see how others have written about the things that I want to write about.
My name is Miles Yalcom, and I'm a graduate student in the MA and MFA in poetry programs at the University of Montana. My grandfather grew up on a farm in Montana during the Great Depression. His family had enough to eat because they could grow their own food, but not much else. He enlisted in the Navy to escape a life of rural poverty and served in World War II. After the war, my grandfather attended Montana State University on the GI Bill, met my grandmother, a fellow student, and got an engineering degree. After college, he found a good job. He eventually invented a technology used to filter molten aluminum, started a successful company, and by the end of his life, he was an affluent and respected entrepreneur. Now, this story means different things to different people. Many will see it as a prime example of the pull yourself up by the bootstraps ethos of the greatest generation. There is some truth to this narrative. My grandfather was an intelligent man who worked hard. He was ambitious, competitive, and a savvy capitalist. However, he did not accomplish everything by himself. He remarked on numerous occasions that he never would have attended college if the government had not paid for it. Growing up in rural Montana, he did not even know anyone who had a college degree. It is difficult to overstate the importance of governmental education funding on the trajectory of both my grandfather's life and the booming post-war economy as a whole in the United States. The other outside influence that contributed to my grandfather's success was his lifelong passion for reading. My mom told me that, during her childhood, my grandpa's post-work reading time was sacrosanct, not to be disturbed for any reason. I vividly remember my grandparents' gorgeous library from my own childhood. They read everything: contemporary novels, works of history, classics, you name it. Both of my grandparents were avid readers until the day they died. I firmly believe that this literary engagement taught my grandpa much of the critical reasoning and knowledge of human nature that allowed him to achieve success in business, and he certainly believed that literature was of central importance to a fulfilling life. Now, I graduated from Bozeman High School, and partially due to my grandfather's entrepreneurial success, I was able to attend a prestigious out-of-state private school where I obtained a degree in English literature. I decided to come back to Montana for graduate school, both because of my family's deep roots in this state and because the University of Montana has a world-class English faculty, as well as a long history of academic excellence in the literature and creative writing departments. The UM faculty is every bit as accomplished, dedicated, and hardworking as my professors at Reed College. My classmates and colleagues at UM came here from all over the country and the world to get a superb literary education, an education that is also financially within reach for the working and middle-class families who live in Montana. The literature and creative writing faculty at UM do not only train our nation's future writers and academics. They teach the critical thinking, writing skills, complex reasoning, and nuanced perception that will prove invaluable to the future lawyers, bankers, corporate executives, doctors, engineers, and citizens who attend all manner of programs at the University of Montana. We do not need the luxury swimming pools, overpaid bureaucrats, and gleaming, amenity-rich dormitories that many American universities spend their money on in order to attract potential students. We need to support and protect the beating heart of the university, its faculty. We also need to maintain the affordable tuition and competitive funding offers for undergrads and graduate students alike that ensure that UM continues to attract the best and the brightest, both from within Montana and from the world at large, and that ensure that one of the sources of the university's hard-won prestige is not squandered in a short-sighted attempt to balance the budget by gutting the humanities. There are financial realities that need to be dealt with, but universities live and die by their reputations, and destroying the internationally acclaimed literature and language programs at UM would be a colossal mistake that will do nothing to solve our long-term problems, and will only impoverish a state that is immensely fortunate to have such an excellent, affordable humanities department. Thank you.
What is the value of my English degree? That's a pretty big question, but an English degree is great for learning critical thinking, analysis, as well as engaging with all the big problems that our culture has, such as the environment, politics, etc. So when the administration came out with a strategy for distinction, ignoring literature and actively trying to eliminate literature does not create a distinct university, because literature and English play such vital roles in understanding our society and engaging with the issues fully before making any decisions on it.
Hi, I'm Abby Gillespie, and I'm a 5th generation Montanan and a 1st generation college student. College and education is my entirety, and it's my being. The cutting of departments is the cutting of morale, and the weight of cutting programs is a burden carried entirely on the back of students. College is an investment of myself, and the budgeting of the university isn't something that I can control. So why do I have to suffer the biggest consequences of these cuts? I shouldn't have to stand in front of a camera right now and share my experiences. I shouldn't have to appeal for my own education, but here I am. I shouldn't have to humble myself when it comes to what I've worked my entire life to achieve. I should be able to bluntly say, I deserve a better education. I deserve to pursue my passions. I deserve the opportunity to better my life, and I deserve the opportunity to better my family's life. I feel the strain of my mentors, and the air of campus is clouded with doubt and uncertainty. It's no secret, yet there's always whispers. Who's going to be gone next? What is it going to take for us to get out of a crisis? As a 5th generation Montanan and a 1st generation college student, I shouldn't have to question whether or not this education isn't going to provide me for a foundation for my biggest aspirations. I prioritize and invest in the University of Montana, and I hope the University of Montana will do the same for me.